So we've known for a while that some form of player inertia is coming to Escape from Tarkov, and it seems like in a recent update from BSG, they confirmed yet again that that will be coming in patch 12.12, which we don't yet have a date for. But what is inertia? Will it ruin the game, or will it make almost every single encounter you have with other players feel better? I'm Jessekazam. Welcome back to another Escape from Tarkov video. If you like the video, think about dropping a like, commenting down below, or subscribing to the channel for more content like this. That stuff helps me out a ton, so thank you so much to those that do that. And I stream Escape from Tarkov on Twitch. All my links will be down below. I'd love to have you stop by and say hey. But with all that stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the video. All right, so we are talking about inertia, which is to me a pretty surprisingly controversial topic. Obviously, as a disclaimer, inertia is not in the game yet, so we don't know exactly how they will implement it. If it's going to be extreme or pretty subtle, we don't really know until they get it out on the ETS, test it out, and then put it in a patch and we get it in our hands. We're not going to know exactly how it is going to feel. However, I have this conversation almost daily on my stream of people either just completely not understanding or knowing what it is or what its purpose would be, how it would change the game, or people thinking, just assuming that the absolute worst case scenario will happen and that the players that want inertia want to just break the game entirely. So I figured we would come in, clear up basically what the definition of inertia is and in gaming, and talk about at least what the community wants out of inertia, which is a lot less extreme than people think. So at its core, I mean, the definition of inertia is a tendency to do nothing or remain unchanged, a property of matter by which it continues to exist in its state of rest or uniform motion in a straight line unless its state is changed by an external force. I'm not a physicist out here trying to make any scientific breakthroughs. I'm just a nerd that plays video games all the time. So we're not going to get too deep into the physics definition of inertia. We're talking about video games here, but it's basically the resistance of a physical object to change its velocity, meaning if you're running in a straight line, when you try to stop, your body wants to continue moving in that direction until you put force in the other direction or until gravity, which would be an external force, slows you down. That's why if you are running at full speed in real life, you cannot just stop on a dime. It actually takes a while for you to slow down because once you've built up that momentum, you want to continue moving at that speed, and it requires force to slow you down. So how does that translate to video games? How does that translate to Escape from Tarkov? So here's a clip that I made. This was literally, you'll hear me say, all right, show me why we need inertia. So this is a reference point for the movement and Escape from Tarkov. You could say that this is a little bit exaggerated, although I have seen movement exactly like this every time you snipe at somebody and miss your shot. But we'll take a look at this and how this is like a reference point for the current movement in the game. Run and like switch back and forth really quickly. Like basically show me why we need inertia. Dude, now do that same thing back towards me. Jesus Christ. All right, so there we see basically the exact opposite of what we talked about in that definition, where he's running and switching directions basically completely on a dime and being able to maintain the movement at full speed, where in just a few frames, he can completely turn around and start moving the other direction at full speed. No matter how much gear he has on, no matter how heavy he is, it is just a complete rotation. And it looks unnatural. Now, using this kind of as a reference point of the movement that we have, we can take a look at a video made by the developers of Scum. This video game came out a while ago. This video came out a really long time ago, but it's the actual best video I've ever seen displaying the inertia system. So you can see basically their speed of the players as they're moving. And so they run through some tests. They do walking where it takes the person with inertia just a second to stop. They do a little jogging, same thing, a full sprint. And you can see that full sprint is really a great example of it takes just a second for this guy to get up to speed. And you can actually see him lean forward and try to like gain some of that momentum, as opposed to the guy on the left with no inertia immediately snapping to full speed. And then the same thing when they stop, it takes the guy with inertia a second to slow down, to kind of stop that movement. It's not some like over the top insane thing. It just makes the movement feel more grounded. And then this next example is the best I've ever seen. So once again, using the Tarkov movement as a reference, the kind of like side to side AD serpentine running. And you can see this is exactly what we see in Escape from Tarkov. It is the example that we just used. We're going to watch this a few times, and I'm going to link this video down below just so you guys can see. This guy completely never slowing down. His speed is always at the top, just left, right, kind of serpentining. And this person on the right, it actually takes a second for him to turn. On the corners, you can see the velocity slows down. That character slows a tiny bit. So you can see that the guy on the right doesn't come to a complete stop on the corners. Like, it's not going to make running or serpentining not worth it at all. Like, if you're still getting shot at, making your movement unpredictable is going to be a good thing, but you can't absolutely just pivot on a dime. So once again, I will link this video down below. This is absolutely the best video kind of showing and contrasting this movement and the way that this character kind of like carries himself, and contrasting that with this movement right here. And now, just to get out in front of something that I feel like some people might be concerned with, is how do skills play into this? We know that endurance and strength definitely affect the player's movement. That first clip was towards the end of the wipe where the skills, I'm not sure exactly where each of our skills were there. However, because of that, right after the wipe, this next clip is week 1 of the wipe, because I actually really wanted the contrast, because that first clip was taken towards the end of the wipe. How much does skills affect it? This is week 1 of the wipe that just happened, so about 2 months ago, and we get this clip kind of showing a very similar thing. Go back into... Okay. Yep. As you can see, basically indistinguishable from the first clip. Strength and endurance definitely play a part and definitely do affect the movement of your character in Escape from Tarkov, but they do not affect inertia. This is just one of those, it's either on or it's off. There is either inertia in the game or not. And when there's not, your character can move back and forth basically on a dime because of that. So we know what inertia is, you know, by its definition, and like a visual example of a video game that does not have it and a video game that did try to implement it. That begs the question, why do we want inertia in this video game? First of all, we do not want to go too far down the deep dark rabbit hole of realism and immersion and who gets to decide what realism is or what it isn't. But it definitely makes the movement in a video game feel more grounded and feel more realistic. I don't think anybody is advocating for a quote unquote real life amount of inertia where if my character is running full speed with a full backpack, it actually takes me like, 5, 10, 15 steps to slow my character down. The subtlety that you saw in the Scum video is, I think, really what the community for the most part is asking for. Just any bit of player inertia to make the movement in the game feel less arcadey and feel more grounded. And it will definitely affect how people fight and how PvP works in Escape from Tarkov. It does not eliminate aggressive gameplay. I do not think it would in any way, but there are definitely examples of gameplay that I think most of the community feel unnatural, or they don't feel super fun. And so adding that small amount of player inertia to the movement of Escape from Tarkov would change every single PvP encounter that you get into, and we can kind of split those up into the 2 sections, mid to long range and close range. So looking at a clip like this where I'm on woods, you can see in the mid to long range section, it is basically impossible to track a target at any distance, whether you're sniping at 500 meters with a bolty, or whether you're using a TX-15 and just trying to get some shots. It becomes impossible to track the movement of a player because the unpredictability of not knowing where they're going to go, plus the ability to completely 180 flip on a dime and maintain your speed, make it really just a guessing game. If I would have killed this guy here, I landed a few shots. If I killed him here in this zigzag, it would have just been me getting lucky and guessing when he was going to zig and when he was going to zag. His ability to basically turn around, run towards me, and just left, right, and not lose any of his momentum made it almost impossible for me to follow him. Now, we don't want to just make it infinitely easy to snipe. We don't just want to make mid to long range engagements so easy. In a version where this guy has player inertia, he can't do this, but he might have to do something differently. We know that Nikita wants the game to be where you have to be smart and plan. You might not run out in open fields as much, or if you do, you just have to change your movement to make it less complete 180 back and forth. You can still serpentine. He could have just gotten to cover, got to that bush and laid prone. Yes, it's going to change it, but it's going to change it for everybody. And it's going to mean that you're going to have to be a little bit smarter about where you move. We don't want the game to be easy. We don't want to just always favor the guy shooting, but you want to favor the guy who's in the more advantageous position. If he had chosen a different route, one that was safer, one that had more hard cover, he probably still would have came out of this encounter on top. But in a situation like this, I would have felt more confident in my ability to drop this guy because he decided to kind of run out into an open field. So, and then the other flip side of that is your close range fights, and that is going to completely change that as well. We all know all too well the 80 spam strafe kind of around corners where you can exploit the netcode. And I don't talk about exploiting as in like cheating. I just mean that with Peeker's advantage and the desync in Tarkov and the fact that there's no inertia, we all kind of know, especially if you've been playing Tarkov for a long time, that you can AD around a corner, and as long as they're not pre-firing you because they know you're going to do it again, you can basically look around a corner, gain some information, get back behind that corner before that person has the time to shoot, or if they do shoot, they might see you still there, but you're on the server side back behind the wall. And I believe that that's why a lot of close quarters encounters can feel weird or feel frustrating, or once again, feel unnatural. You're not sure how you died, is because we all, including myself, a lot of times exploit that netcode and that aggression and that movement, and that you can move back and forth. You can move in and out of doorways, in and out of hallways extremely quickly, 80, you know, sitting on top of a rock or something like that, and make yourself a really, really hard target to hit. And you're not really playing smart as far as tactics and being in a place that's hard to hit. It's really just, once again, exploiting, not in a cheater way, exploiting the netcode, exploiting the movement of the game. And with that small amount of player inertia, the hope is that it's not so much that you're falling over or stumbling out into hallways. It's just, once again, playing smart for the situation. You're going to peek those hallways, and you're going to have to commit to that peek more. If you're going to swing on somebody, you're going to have to commit to that swing more. So I think it's in an interesting place, because I do truly believe that a very small and subtle amount of player inertia could actually fundamentally and very visibly change how fights happen. And there might be a lot of people that are resistant to that change, because there are people that have mastered Escape from Tarkov in its current form, that have mastered the movement, that understand these things, and they might feel like they're at a disadvantage now, or they might feel like it was a frustrating change that didn't really have a reason. But I do believe if we take the 10,000 foot view, and if we once again watch these clips back of how the movement is and how unnatural it feels, we see the examples of how subtle it is in some of the other games, and we think about what Escape from Tarkov is and what Nikita and BSG want Escape from Tarkov to be in the future, it feels like, to me, it just makes sense to have this in the game and promote a play style, the winning play style being the one who was the smartest, who thought about his situations, thought about his movement, thought about his positioning, and was able to win that fight because of that, and not because they were able to just spam AD on the keyboard and make themselves basically impossible to hit. Now, once again, this is in no way shaming anybody. I find myself doing this all the time. It's not that somebody's right and somebody's wrong. It's just that this is the direction it feels like the devs want to take the game. This is an example of inertia, and hopefully how they implement it, not, you know, way too much or not noticeable, something that is tangible and has an effect on the game but doesn't kind of break the game. And like we said earlier, I do think that this still supports all sorts of play styles. I think if you're a hyper aggressive player, it's just learning how to be hyper aggressive with this, and learning how to, once again, get the best of your enemy, use your movement and use your positioning to win. And I think that those play styles will 100% still be supported. We all just might have to relearn how it works. There are countless stories of games that have implemented this. One of the more recent ones is the game Hunt Showdown. I know a lot of people that play that game and that have said that originally it had a very similar problem to Tarkov where the movement felt unnatural and the fights didn't feel fair. They introduced Inertia, and a large portion of the community absolutely loved how it affected the game. A lot more games than you think implemented this from day one. And I think that's part of the controversy too, is anything that's being implemented halfway through a development cycle. I think that's one of the reasons why VoIP gets so much controversy around it as well. But anything that's added halfway through means you have people used to a system beforehand having to adapt and change to a new system. Some people are going to love that. Some people are going to hate that. But you would be surprised. Just go Google it. We're not going to get into every single game. I would venture a guess almost every single other shooter that you've played has some form of player inertia in the game, and you benefit from that in those other games as well. So I hope that this video helped. I hope that this helped define what inertia is, showing how it's been implemented in some other games, and go through some examples of how I think it will benefit Escape from Tarkov in the long run. Once again, we don't know exactly how they're going to do it. BSG does kind of have a habit of over-tuning something at first and then having to dial it in. So it wouldn't surprise me if maybe inertia comes into the game and it's a little extreme and has to be dialed back. But I think a lot of my content is about looking forward and looking to the benefits of having it in the game, and then providing valuable feedback based on your experience if you think it's too much, too little, or anything like that when it comes. So hopefully it does that, and hopefully you are like me and are extremely excited for the future of Escape from Tarkov. Thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to check out this video. If you liked the video, think about dropping a like, commenting down below, or subscribing to the channel for more content like this. Like we said before, I stream Escape from Tarkov on Twitch. All my links will be down below. I'd love to have you stop by and say hey. And if you're looking for people to play Tarkov with, our Discord server is an awesome place to be. That link is down below as well. Thank you again, and I will definitely see y'all on the next one.